Illegal drug use in Canada is raging out of control, which of course means that overdoses are equally out of control. Ottawa, Canada, has an experimental plan to help this problem. I got this story from NPR, and I had to listen to 8 excruciating minutes of that NPR voice to get this story. So please hit that like and give me a sub to help compensate for the migraine that was inflicted on me. In 2021, there were a total of 7,169 deaths from opioid overdose in Canada. Now, there's no way to tell if this is the total number of people that died from opioids, because some deaths are never reported, and of course it can't include people that died from accidents while being under the influence, like car accidents, slip and fall, etc. So what's the big plan? According to their theory, an addict cannot get better if they're dead, so they are doing what they think is best to prolong life. I didn't say anything about rehab or getting them to stop using drugs. That would make too much sense. I wouldn't even bother making a video about that. Boring and predictable. Canada wants to encourage drug use. They may even want them to take more drugs. Now, this is only my opinion. Hold on, let me explain why I think this. As it exists now, people are using drugs on the street. Because the drug of choice is illegal, the user can never really be certain how potent it is or what the actual drug is. It could be laced with powerful synthetic opioids like fentanyl and other toxic chemicals. They might think they're buying X, but they're actually getting Y, or X plus Y, or maybe a bag of baby laxatives. You just never know. The street user then takes a wild guess on how much to use. Sometimes they overdose, sometimes they don't. It's totally gambling every time. Now, Anne-Marie Hopkins is one of the frontline health workers in Canada. She says they find overdose casualties in porta potties and in alleys from time to time. So Hopkins says her philosophy of addiction also had to change. She sums it up in a single sentence. There is no recovery if you're dead. So I completely understand their desire to prevent more death. That's very admirable. The new program aims to keep drug users alive, not by curing their addiction, but by helping them get high more safely. So they're providing a clean room to use drugs. It kind of looks like a bunch of library desks that are separated by a partition. Everyone gets their own little space. Now they're monitored by a closed-circuit TV, and they're offered medical help if necessary. The closed-circuit TV part is a little interesting. There are no staff members while they're taking the drug. They only intervene if medically necessary. So if they see someone in distress, they can provide naloxone. That's a drug or a chemical that negates the effects of opioids. Or they can give oxygen to help with breathing. Or they can call paramedics for advanced medical care.
Hopkins says these people can get in trouble fast, so her team watches every user on a closed-circuit TV screen.
He's taking a look right now. He's watching somebody inject. If he were to see, like, say, for example, this gentleman not doing well, he would yell out to the staff on the floor, hey, go check 8, make sure they're okay.
It's troubling to watch. Overdoses happen here all the time, just like they do out on the street. But in this clinic and similar clinics across Canada, nurses stand by ready to help. During my visit, a woman slumps forward in her chair.
The individual in that booth is under like a very mild overdose. We're just going to pop her on just a little bit of oxygen, probably a very low level, just to make sure that she doesn't dip down further.
So, in these clinics, do they still have overdoses? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Happens all the time. Here's where they lose me. Drug addicts are still using drugs. But now they have a government-sponsored safe place to do drugs with a safety net. Now, from what I know about drug users, they tend to have, let's say, an indulgent personality. Let's run this scenario. Sally buys a small bag of what she thinks is heroin. She would normally use a gram every time she shoots up. Now, I have no idea if that's the correct dose or not. I would have no way of knowing that. But let's use that as an example for this story. On the street, Sally would be cautious to use a slightly smaller amount because she might be scared of an overdose. But now she's surrounded by people that will jump in to intervene, so she can basically use more to chase that high because the consequences have been removed, or at least severely reduced. Now, I know I beat this dead horse a lot, but governments should not be removing bad consequences. That's how you learn. or at least become an example for others to learn from. Now, Sally has absolutely no reason to stop using drugs, and I will assume that she will use even more. I mean, why not? The risk of harm is gone. She has a safe place and basically a medical seal of approval. Okay, prediction time. I bet this experiment is successful. I bet it is so successful they create a bunch more clinics in large Canadian towns and cities. Then, in the very near future, they realize that overdoses are still happening. So the government needs to intervene again. And they provide the drugs to make sure they're tested and safe. Hey, it's not impossible. Deep down, the government wants to control every single aspect of your life. It's not a stretch they'll want to control the people that are the absolute easiest to control. They aren't going to put up much of a fight as long as they get what they need. All right, now back to reality. I feel bad for these users. I don't know how they got into this position, so I'm not going to speculate. They may have had a personal history that is unimaginable, and drugs seemed like an escape from the pain. Then it just got out of control. And they may be rich kids who were just spoiled on daddy's money, and then that got out of control. I'm not going to judge. I can't. I know nothing about these people. However, I think it's fair to say that doing more drugs probably isn't the answer. And government-sponsored drug facilities definitely isn't the answer. I hope these people find peace, and I hope they find help. It would be nice if they could replace the drugs with a purpose. There are giant groups of people just wandering around. They get government housing, government food, welfare, EBD cards, unemployment checks. They've got nothing to do but drugs. Maybe, and just maybe, if they had to work in order to get all of this stuff, their lives would have a purpose and they wouldn't have any time to get high all day. My theory: mountains of free shit from birth till death has made people weak and lazy. What did you think they were going to do? End all the free crap. It's going to be really hard for a bit, but they'll get over it, and they'll be better off for the tough love. Is everyone going to make it? Sadly, some will not. But this reminds me of the lifeboat paradox. A giant cruise ship is sinking. A lifeboat with 20 people manages to get away from the crowd of people splashing around in the water. This lifeboat can hold 40 people, so they decide to go back into the mass and try to save a few. Some people in the water see the lifeboat heading towards them, so they swim as hard as they can. They break away from the pack and they reach the boat and they climb in. The lifeboat is now at capacity. But they keep going, trying to save just a few more. Well, they get swarmed. 10 people get on board, then another 10. The boat sinks and everyone is lost. See, you can't save everyone. You save a few that try really hard. Then you have to make sacrifices. That's brutal to hear, and I'm sorry for that. Life is hard. Life is cruel. The gazelle on the savannah knows this. People have just forgot that life is hard, and bad choices need to have consequences.